can all play that afterwards if you want. We are live. The floor is yours.
All right.
You can see all of the questions over there.
Okay.
Someone shots them.
Perfect. Thanks so much. So I share my screen?
Yeah.
Sure. Makes sense.
Hi.
All right. I guess we got one more minute. I don't know how exact it needs to start. Hey, how's it going? Thanks for coming. Yes. All right, great. So looks like it's 2:30 now. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get started. Thanks everybody for coming by. The one thing I have up here to start, if you do want it, is a QR code that'll take you straight to the presentation. And this bit.ly link here, just bit.ly Celo Miami. I found out capital C, capital M matters. The reason I'm sharing it is one, in case you want to follow along, but then two, there's a lot of different steps where maybe you can reference them later, but then a lot of links involved too. So the links can take you to different blog posts I'm referencing. Because we'll be going through a lot of information, but I've written a ton of blogs on technical parts to help make sure that you can step through and get set up with any of the tools we're talking about. So with that, the bit.ly link will be on the screen for a little while longer still. But basically, thanks for joining the presentation for Celo. And I want to say welcome to the founders, developers, designers, dreamers, we call them. Include everybody that wants to come and build on the hackathon. So thanks so much for spending time with us. And just to introduce myself and Nestor, if he wants to come up. I'm on the developer relation teams at Celo. I've been here for about a year. Prior to that, I was working a lot in technical education and fell in love with the Celo mission, so I decided to start with them. And I've been developing, writing documentation, blogs, and doing hackathons ever since. You can find me at Joe Nizio. Nestor's joined the team recently. I don't know, did you want to introduce yourself quick? He'll be giving presentations around the middle.
Well, I'm Nestor Mania, our development team, full stack Web3. So, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, coming back up in a half hour or so, he's going to be giving a walkthrough of the platform and helping us get started with that. Aside from our Twitters, you can follow Celo.org or Celo Devs, or join the chat at Celo or .celo.org. Anywhere you want to find us. So basically, to put it briefly, which we'll go into more details, is that Celo is interested in designing a future where everyone can prosper. It's a mobile-first, carbon-negative, EVM-compatible blockchain that makes decentralized financial apps accessible to anyone with a mobile phone. And given that, our mission is to build a financial system that creates the conditions of prosperity for everyone. And you'll notice throughout the presentation that we try to get technical where we can, but there is a lot of mission-driven stuff, and it's sort of a blend of the two, where we want the technology to make it possible to make the different applications, and then our mission helps you have a framework for what types of applications like fit well in the ecosystem and what types of things you might want to build, either in the future or in this hackathon coming up. So given that mission, we kind of have two core values that we like to live by, and it's connectedness and unique purpose. And I'm finding that I don't have my presentation notes available, but basically connectedness in the Community is the idea that everyone has their own unique values and actually, I'm sorry. Do you know of a way to get the presenters? If not, I'll keep going, and that's fine. But basically, given our value of connectedness, we want day one to be pretty much focused on that. We'll connect you with Celo's tools, resources, and the community. In this first half hour, we're going to give you an overview of Celo and the upcoming hackathon details. 30 minutes after that, Nestor is going to get you into the Celo tech stack to teach you more about that. And then I'll give you everything you need to connect with all the Celo tools that'll help you build dApps over the next few days. I stole the name from Connect the World with Celo as the name of today's presentation is because right now we have a big initiative going on called Connect the World, and it's $20 million worth of rewards worldwide to build on and off ramps to help connect everybody globally to Celo. You can go to this website and it'll tell you more about that if you're interested in ramps. That might be a good place to get started. And then day two, to give you an idea of it, while today's going to be a little technical, or at least help you get set up technically, the idea is that if you have any questions, we've got a whole nother day to be here and mentor and help you set up your local environment. But tomorrow, we're going to focus a lot on that idea of finding your unique purpose within the mission-aligned ecosystem. So how would you make an impact with Celo, given the ideas of refi, stablecoins, mobile, community commerce, UBI, and financial inclusion? You'll see that a lot of our bounties have to do with those topics. We're going to get technical again with Nestor, teaching you the basics of sending transactions. And if we have time at the end, I do think it helps to think a bit like a founder, as I call it, where you only really have 3 days to build. So while developing is part of it, the other side of it is just coming up with your idea, defining the scope, figuring out what exactly you can build, what features you can get done in 3 days, and then putting together a quick pitch deck that helps explain that story to people. So that would hopefully be day two. And that again came from a big Celo initiative. Originally it was called DeFi for the People. It was $100 million in funds for building decentralized apps last year. And now we're sort of moving into the idea of refi, where not only is it decentralized finance, but it has positive impacts on the world. So again, those values we have, the unique talents of individuals, the strength of our communities, and now third is the health and biodiversity of our ecosystems is a huge focus on Celo. So not only what are you building, but why are you building it? And in that case, we have 3 key pillars, all of which are mission-driven dApps built for mobile. Those 3 key ideas are dApps that have to do with community commerce, regenerative economics and climate, and UBI and access to financial tools. Community commerce refers to projects, protocols, and programs that support small-scale entrepreneurs and local communities using the mobile-first payment solutions that we have. Regenerative economics, or refi and climate, is where you go about creating applications that help provide water, shelter, food, or basic needs related to the SDGs, if anyone's heard of them. They're a, what is that? SDGs? Never mind. Huh? Yes, thank you. Yes, sustainability goals provided by the UN is very mission aligned as far as I'm concerned. Any dApps that would help provide those types of things to people around the world, absolutely love them, want to see them, and help use the Celo tools to build them. And UBI access to financial tools, similar ideas. People coming from DeFi might recognize like credit, stable, low risk yield, and insurance solutions. They port over pretty well. And then hopefully the backend we provide allows you to build them effectively for more people. So why build on Celo? Is to me, make dApps that make a difference. It's a little repetitive with what I was just saying, but what allows you to do that is what we call lightning fast block time, super low fees, and a carbon negative platform. Lightning fast meaning if you make a transaction, it doesn't take hours or days, it's 5 seconds. You can send money, say if it's at, you're sending money to a friend, you're sending money across the world, no matter what it is, the transaction goes by really quick. Low transaction fees meaning a penny or less. So you're not spending $100 to send $1. You can actually conceivably sell something for very little and make the profit, have your money, and not worry about all your money going in gas fees. And carbon negative, made a lot of decisions from day one to be carbon negative. For example, launching on Earth Day doesn't necessarily make you carbon negative, but it was a statement about like how focused we are on helping the world. Aside from that being proof of stake, the the way we handle block rewards, the way the whole network operates is aligned around being carbon negative. And as far as I know now, still the only one that's carbon negative. What it's driven by is our core asset. It is Celo, the platform native asset. It's the core utility reserve staking and governance asset for Celo. Celo holders earn rewards, stake with validators, and vote on proposals similar to other networks. And aside from that, we have stable coins that are driven by our stability protocol known as Minto. These are localized currencies. In this case, we currently have CUSD, the C Euro, and the C Real. This can continue to grow over time, and it's in line with the idea that everyone should have their own local currency to operate within their local communities in whatever means they need to do so. The real from Brazilian currency? Yeah. So, and then the last one, if anyone's ever coded anything at all on Ethereum, pretty much love Celo. It's fully EVM compatible. Everything that you've learned there directly ports over to the point where you could just have your Ethereum app change the endpoint, redeploy it, and it's on Celo now. There are other tools and stuff we provide to help aside from that, but anything you know from there, MetaMask, Truffle, Hardhat, Remix, Solidity, they all work right away. So there's not as much learning as if you had to learn like a whole new programming language. Given all this, right now what we have is 1,000 or more mission-driven mobile dApps. Since the launch of the mainnet, we now have over 1,000 projects from builders, developers, and artists. They continue to create new applications with these digital currencies we mentioned. Some examples are Valora, which we're going to actually have you install later, and then we'll go around, give you all some Celo to mess with. But the idea is that it's essentially Venmo for crypto. With all those things I mentioned, it's cheap, it's easy, it's fast, it's extremely simple to download this. All you need is a phone number and a mobile phone, and then you can immediately get up and running with the Celo app. The idea being that if you're trying to get into communities that don't have banks, what they do have is mobile phones. Even if they're cheap, simple to use, they would be able to install and manage something like Valora. Uniswap is another one. People might be familiar with SushiSwap, which is actually also on Celo and soon to have other things like this, but it's a DeFi exchange. You can earn income using liquidity, and they give you a couple things that are similar to other products. Moolah Market is another one. You can democratize credit and yield, they call it. You deposit to earn money, and then they have their Moo tokens. These are all your kind of standard DeFi apps, but over on Celo. But one that I'm particularly excited about is Impact Market, because what it is currently is one of the largest UBI programs that I understand in the world. There's over 37,000 beneficiaries, and they've raised over $3 million to give these micropayments to people on a weekly or monthly basis to help them handle their shops, their families, or whatever it is that they need it for. That, along with all of these and many other projects, have been launching lately. And one thing we do love to do is teach the technical stuff, teach the mission stuff, but we do a lot of funding at the foundation to help people grow their projects after it's been developed. And over 100 projects that we got funding just in the past year. Another thing pretty interesting with Celo is just the actual real world adoption. There's a lot of blockchains with a lot of wallets and a lot of addresses, and they always grow, but who's actually using them and for what? In this case, they measured 7-day active addresses in EVM systems. And in some cases, people, they may just be holding the asset and never using it in the first place. But for Celo, we're just happy that people are consistently using the apps, money circulating, and it's being used for real world use cases. So that said, I actually just put this slide in an hour ago. They released the Celo annual report. There's a link on the bottom there where it goes into tons of details, introducing Celo again, a message from our founder, meeting the foundation, and a ton of other things that will give all our biggest initiatives and what we're working on. So transition a bit to the hackathon details. So we got all this. If you do want to build on Celo, I just wanted to let you know what the hackathon prizes look like, the structure, and how you might be able to build an app that could help you succeed in the hackathon. So this is a big, kind of complicated slide, but I like it because basically over on the right, it tells the different things that exist in terms of funding. There's ecosystem prizes, bounties, impact, bonuses, and tracks. Some of these are coming from outside of Celo. Some of them are being supported by Celo, but this graph kind of helps me visualize what's going on and why. basically the ecosystem of Celo. There's 3 top projects that win that prize. Underneath that, we're really focused on like, why would you build Celo in the first place? So in this case, we're gonna be giving bounties to people that build within community commerce, regenerative economics, and UBI, similar to what I explained before. There's also prizes for having a local impact on the community, financial inclusion, earth impact, and accessibility in UI. Under that, there's like how you're going to go ahead and build them. And in this case, it's mobile and stable coins. So for all of our prizes, we have like additional bonuses for if it's like particularly mobile focused or it makes good use of stable coins. And underneath that, these are the tracks that apply to actually all the ecosystems, but it's what you would end up building. A metaverse application, an NFT application, infrastructure, and DeFi. And the way I have it laid out like this is that you can kind of go up the path however you want. You could have an NFT mobile application focus on financial inclusion by using community commerce, or trace it up any way you want. It's hard to describe exactly which one you might want to pick, but just wanted to lay it all out there to help you figure out what you might build. So the ecosystem prizes is everyone here, they're offering $7,500 for the 3 best projects for that app, for that platform. The track prize, as we said, metaverse, NFT, infrastructure, and DeFi prizes. There's a little more details on each of these if you might want to read them in your slides. The impact prizes, the Celo bounties. To give a little more, just to pause here, is that, yeah, you would end up developing some of those projects and programs to support entrepreneurs in the community. Anything that has to do with helping the earth. And if you have UBI or financial inclusion ideas, we'd love to hear them. We'll be talking a lot more on those specifically tomorrow. So apologies if it's a little abstract at first. I wanted to dedicate today on the technology, tomorrow on picking what it is that you want to build. So just to recap on this, we would love to see everything in this middle section. Why are you building? And it's to help people. So if you have any ideas for that, we have bounties for you. Celo is a big community. It's global. Even the team we work on is completely global, completely remote. And then everyone through Discord, Twitter, Slack, wherever we are. Happy to chat with you anytime. And you can find us in, I guess, starting on Twitter and the Discord. We'll give you those links. And if you hadn't seen them before, they're later in the presentation too, so we can get you connected. Let's see. One thing we do have is a monthly event. If you see anything about Connecto anywhere on Celo.org, it's about an hour to 2 every month or so, where everybody comes together, chats, shares their ideas, what apps they're building. And it's exciting to get to. So if you want to join, that would be great. And last, if you want to get support, there's a lot of ways to get funding after your app's been created. So we've got Celo Camp, Polychain Capital, Flory, and others coming. And I think I might have mentioned it earlier, but basically, Celo Camp is every couple months, and anyone who wins our ecosystem prize in this hackathon, we wanted to give them a fast track into Celo Camp. So you could go ahead and get that funding and additional support for the app idea that you had, and you can grow it over time. So I call this a connectedness workshop, but basically I know at this point I would be talking a lot, and I just wanted to turn it back and see if anyone could share their story quick, like why are you here? Is there something you're interested in building? How might we be able to help you? I can throw somebody a t-shirt if they would want it for speaking up, but I'd love to hear, does anybody have a particular idea in mind that they were coming here for? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Graciela. My idea for the hackathon, not sure how to do it, but is to create an educational DeFi app that will teach others about crypto. I want it to be a mobile application, Android, so that it can be accessible to everybody in the world.
Sure.
And I'm very passionate about financial literacy, so I would love for people all over the world to know what crypto is, how to get into it, if they want to, and be able to make a good educational choice.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Oh, do I use this?
Oh, sorry, I didn't know we had a microphone.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah, so I want everybody to be able to make an educational choice if they should invest, they should not do invest, how they can protect their funds. Unfortunately, there's a lot of scammers in
Sure.
this space. Yeah. Just
Oh,
make
that's
accessible to everybody.
That's great. And are you a developer or a founder type? Are you looking for a team? Is there any way that?
Yeah, I'm looking for a team. I actually am learning how to code right now for JavaScript. So I think my skills would be more like project managing.
Okay.
And
Cool.
Just researching project managing, help wherever I can, and value wherever I can.
Sure. I appreciate it. And what was your name?
Graciela.
Gracias. Well, thanks so much for sharing that. Yeah, if anybody's looking to get involved with that, that would be great. And hopefully we get more chance to chat with each other. So everybody has a chance to connect and see in what ways they can help.
Thank you.
So I appreciate it. Is there anybody else wanting to quick share the type of thing you're trying to build? Oh, over here.
Okay, so I studied agriculture and
Okay.
got into IT after because I wanted to take the humanitarian work route. I had a project fail in Ethiopia 6 years ago, so I learned how to develop apps and an iOS developer. And over the past couple months, I've really seen the potential, understood the potential of DeFi, especially DAOs, for a lot of ecological problems that are way too complex for many of us to solve. And that's why I really am interested in Celo in particular, because this project, I really see the term like regenerative get corrupted by the capitalist, the legacy system.
Sure.
And I really want to be on the end that's fighting that, because that word should not get meaningless like sustainable did. We need to really make people understand what a regenerative future would look like and how we can do it. And so that's my project is not my goal, my end goal. My hackathon project is more about converging the world of science and arts. But science is way more digestible to the general public, and the artists can also contribute to this and be rewarded for their efforts, contributing to making people understand science for fun. But my end goal is having a DAO farm. I want to be a
Cool.
farmer. Have it, Celo and
Sure. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, if there's anything we can share to help get you started. Honestly, just this past week I was looking at how do you have DAOs that sort of like own land or in a way that you can preserve it, or in your case maybe farm on it. So I'm kind of looking into tools on my own for something similar. So hopefully I see it. And if anybody dev or wants to work on something like that, I appreciate you sharing, and hopefully we can connect soon. Yeah, sure.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
So we're basically painting
Okay.
use the interest they generate from this prices.
Mhm.
NFTs to the next experience of this.
Okay.
Those interest we generate, and then basically partnership with price for people to generate things. It's the concept of NFTs.
Okay. Oh, cool. That's awesome. I'm just wondering if there's any way, maybe in the Discord we can set something up to go hear more about it and share. I think I'm getting it, but I just want to be able to make sure I need to follow the tools or know how to share stuff. But are you done yourself and working on it already? Cool.
We are one of the
Oh, that's great. I guess, Martha, now I'm hearing your name. Are you the one we were talking on Telegram?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for coming. Super cool. Thanks so much. Yeah, I'll definitely love to chat and catch up with you. Anybody else have any ideas or want to share types of things they're working on? I know it's not very specific on exactly what I can share right now. We will be going through a lot of resources and places to find things, but just keeping it in mind will help too. I can share stuff that'll actually be useful for you. Yeah.
I just have a question, like, what is community commerce? Sorry, on the slide.
Sure. Yeah, community commerce. We are going to go into more detail into it tomorrow, but kind of basically the idea. Where was the slide? Is anything related to something that it might be too far back? I don't know if it would help anyone, but that would help local either entrepreneurs or communities sort of like have commerce initiatives. So, for example, one that's more well known and is bigger is Kickstarter. Coming onto Celo and is currently starting to make the protocol now. But the basic idea is locally someone can get a project started, get funding allocated to them, launch their project, and have it all be sort of like a self-driven local initiative, rather than someone like the foundation saying like this person deserves money or this person deserves money, or any sort of like centralized entity. You just have it that the communities know what they need. The people in those communities need a chance to speak up, and then they can get the funding they need. Another one, community commerce. It's not maybe something you can build in hackathon, but there's ideas of local currencies, being able to transact locally with the people, whether in Brazil and you want to use the C real, or in Europe and you're using the C euro, just making as many of those local currencies as possible. Any sort of marketplace applications, something that would allow, if it's maybe Valora, is a good example of it, made it very simple to transact. So if there were something like a shop that opened up to the community, it's very easy to make and accept payments. I've seen credit cards that allow you to accept Celo, making it again like more accessible for people to transact in their community. So I know that's not the full scope of it. I'm still learning it myself. Honestly, it's like a really broad topic, but tomorrow, yeah, we'll try and go maybe 10 minutes on like community commerce ideas and can link to examples of what exists in Celo already.
Yeah, cool. My idea is that fits in with that. It's like the NFT gated digital products.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, that's super cool. So yeah, I'll try and share, you may know already, that if you build other platforms, like how to make the NFTs and how to make the marketplace and stuff. But I'm happy to share and connect on the best way to try it. And I guess with that, we do have Nestor coming up. I appreciate everybody sharing. Thank you so much. And again, I'd love to connect afterwards with everybody. But now we've got Nestor coming up. I'll let him introduce his own stuff, but appreciate it. I'll be back in like a half hour.
So, well, hello again. I'm Nestor Bonilla. I'm also part of the DevRel team. And basically, what we're going to cover in this talk, this part of the talk, is some primitives. Go here. So we'll cover a couple of high-level concepts before tomorrow that we're gonna start to code. We're gonna dissect transactions in Celo and how are they different from Ethereum, right? So to understand the primitives of blockchains, we need to analyze what are accounts, transaction, and nodes, right? So first, I'll touch an account, and then how accounts interact via transactions. And after, we're gonna go into nodes, where basically, in a nutshell, blockchain are peer-to-peer networks that communicate via nodes. So first, accounts. Accounts are really just a public list. So blockchains are really just a public list of accounts with associated information. So accounts can have a balance, and can and may or may not have an associated code. So we have two types of accounts. The first one are the EOA, which are external owning accounts, that basically are the accounts that we can have with Valora, that we can create with MetaMask, and any other tool, wallet. So basically, with this type of accounts, we can sign transactions, we can execute smart contracts, and basically change the state of the blockchain. We also have another type of accounts, which are smart contract accounts. And these can have balance for sure, but these have an associated code, right? And instead of being controlled by the private key that are the EOA, these ones are controlled by the code they have. What it means, like, I will deploy a scroll contract. So basically, the logic that we are going to put in that contract will define who can withdraw and when, basically. So yeah, in a nutshell, we have two types of accounts: external owner accounts and smart contract accounts. Then we have the other smart piece on blockchain technologies, which are transactions. And basically, the transactions is every action that change the state of the blockchain. And transactions are always initiated by external audit accounts. So what does that mean? That from my external audit account, I will say, okay, I want to withdraw this fund from this smart contract. But that signature is initiated by this EOA, right? And it doesn't matter if this external audit account is going to trigger another function in another contract that is going to call another contract, and so on and so forth. But at first, everything started with one external audit account. So here we have one transaction. Sorry, I was here. So these are the accounts, and these are the transactions. So in the transactions, we have one dissected here. And basically, we have a transfer from account A to account B. And in the transaction that we will see tomorrow in code, we will have that we need a set of parameters. First, we will need a from, a to, a value. In this case, because it's a transfer, we're going to transfer 10 Celo from account A to account B. We can add a data where basically if we are going to interact with one smart contract, we will need to send together with the transaction one data. That let's say that we are going to trigger one specific function in one smart contract, so we will need to say, okay, account A is going to trigger a function in smart contract X, and I can send some value, like, I don't know, put in scroll 10 cells, right? So that's the value, that's the data from to the signature for sure. And the different part that I put different color in the back is the token fee or token currency, which is very unique to Celo that we are going to explain that. And in a nutshell, it means that we can pay the fee in a stable currency that is approved by the Celo blockchain. And this is huge. And I'm going to explain that later. Then we're going to explain, we need to see nodes in Celo, as Joe mentioned, is a proof of stake blockchain. And in Celo, we have three types of nodes. We have validator, full nodes, and lifelines. The validator first are the ones that process updates to the network. So basically, these are the ones that are going to change the state in the blockchain. Then, more in the outside, we have the full nodes that verify these updates processed by these validators. And then we have the light clients. That is also another very peculiar topic about Celo, because they do not store much information and are light enough to run in a mobile phone. So an example that we will try is Valorant. And this is very important because let's say here in the US, it doesn't matter if we consume a little bit more about our data, but in developing countries, it matters a lot. So we're going to talk about Celo specifics, protocol versus applications, smart contracts, Celo features. So first, we will see how Celo as a whole is structured. So first, Celo is a blockchain, right? In the very base, it's a blockchain. Then on top of that blockchain, we have the core contracts. And basically the core contracts are gonna decide how the blockchain works, right? And well, these core contracts together with the Celo blockchain conform what is the Celo protocol. And we, as builders, we are gonna create applications and smart contracts that are gonna interact with that protocol. An example is of a visual representation on the setup of the Celo protocols. is this one, where basically we have a bunch of protocols of core contracts, Celo core contracts that basically will define how the blockchain works. For instance, we have a change in the stability protocol. Basically, exchange is gonna define at what time, how much, and when assets are gonna swap between stable coins and Celo coins in order to keep that peg, that balance. So we have also the lock in the proof of stake protocol. We need to stake Celo in order to vote for validators and so on. So basically, there are many core contracts that are gonna define how the blockchain works in each area: stability, proof of stake, so on and so forth. Also, we have smart contracts. So smart contracts are just simply publicly verifiable and accessible programs. So it means that we are going to create via Solidity, because Celo is CVM compatible. We are going to create a set of functions that are going to determine how a smart contract works, how it's going to be the logic, and based on that, no one can lie. Like, I cannot modify that if I say if a function will execute one set of actions in one specific way. I cannot just simply arbitrarily modify it, like in Web2, for instance. Also, we have OpenZeppelin, which are libraries that are very used in the space, that they are libraries for mathematical procedures. They are also compliant with standards like ERC20, ERC721, 1155, and so on, that we can view later if you have doubts about it and how they are implemented. And now, regarding the very unique difference about the Celo platform, we can mention this setup. First is programmable, EVM compatible. It means that every code that you can create in Solidity and deploy it on Ethereum, you can also deploy it on Celo. Also, the other topic that I mentioned before, the gas payable in multiple currencies, it means that right now in Ethereum, let's say that you want to onboard a person, right? So you will need first have Ethereum, then have your stable currency. Could be DAI, USDC, USDT, whatever stable coins you want. And basically, you will need to send some ETH and then the stable coin for that person to be able to transact that stable coin, right? And from the onboarding part, that's hard, right? It's hard to explain a person, you need to have a stable coin, but you also need some ETH. I don't know, let me explain to you. So in Celo, basically you can transfer stable coins to Celo, and you can define the fee currency that I showed before in the transaction that we just dissected. You can say, okay, I want to pay this transaction with this stable currency. So basically, the transaction cost is 1 cent, and you can define, okay, I just send you $10, and you can send 9 to another address, and you are gonna just expend like 1 cent. So from the onboarding part, that's easy. Also, is on-chain governance. It means that we have forums, we have, all this governance mechanism that will that is open, and we can propose changes to the protocol, and we can vote on that, all the community. We also have the stable value currencies, as I mentioned, and we're gonna describe them later. We have another very important topic, which is the mobile identity. And what does that mean? It means that in Celo, we can map a public key with a mobile phone number. Also, from the onboarding part, this is very important. Why? Because it's like going with this example of onboarding. It's like, all right, I already have my public key. Could you send it to me or tell me your public key? It's like, all right, wait. So it's gonna be 0x 1, 2, 3, 4 until 32 numbers, right? So that's hard. So in the mobile identity, for example, through Valora, we can just map the public key with a phone number. How? I'm going to explain the next slide, and it's decentralized and easy to use. And basically, after that, with Valora, you can send like Venmo, just a transfer to a mobile phone number, easy. And in the back is blockchain, but you don't know, right? Right, basically. So also fast sign for ultra light clients. This is what I mentioned it before, the light clients in the graph. That basically this is very fast, and this is very important for developing countries if we want to build applications on top of the Celo protocol for developing countries. And it's a proof of stake, as Joe mentioned it. And yeah. Now we are going to mention the Celo digital assets that we have right now that are Celo as the fluctuating currency, and the stable coins are Celo dollar, Celo euros, and Celo real. Also, we have ODIs, which come from OWD's decentralized identity service. And this is basically the service that we use in the back in order to map this public key with one phone number. So in order to explain how it works, we have this graph. This is the attestation flow. And basically, once we are going to do that after, in a moment, we're going to install Valora. And the way it works is that first we have our private key and then our public key. And then we're going to start an attestation request. And this is going to call one of the smart contracts for the core protocol. If you remember the previous graphic, we're going to say, OK, I'm account A, and I want to map my public key with this phone number, right? And we're going to call to this smart contract from the core protocol, and that smart contract is going to randomly select one validator. That validator is going to call an attestation service. This part is kind of Web 2 because we need to call one service for send SMS, right? But basically what we're going to do is like we're going to swap that message, right? We're going to send this code in order to validate. We cut that in around 3 or 4 messages. And it's very different codes. And we need to put all these codes into the Valora app in order to prove that we really have that phone number and that we really have that public key in order to map them, right? So after that, we completed the attestation with the sign attestation message, and we're ready to go. Now we are gonna see about building and tools. We're gonna review that architecture and some developer tools. So this is a map on how we can view Web 2 versus Web 3 architectures. And in the top, we will have the Web 2 mechanism, which is the function and state are controlled by a centralized database. And the payment process is in another service that could be PayPal, Stripe, or you name it. And the state change is going back to the centralized database. So basically with this model, which has been the standard for Web 2, basically we don't know what is going to happen, what is happening in the back, right? All the logic is private, right? And all the transfer also is through these services like PayPal, Stripe. And well, first, from the privacy part, we don't know what is happening. That logic, we don't know how it works. And from the economical part, basically, if we want to purchase, I don't know, one t-shirt, we need to pay how much it is, like 3% for Stripe, and so on. So we can cut all that with Web3. So in Web3, the function and state on the state change is managed through the smart contract. And all the payment is going to be through the crypto wallet, where we are going to sign and approve one transaction. Like say, okay, this t-shirt is like $1 or $2 Celo, something like that. And we are going to sign that transaction from our wallet, and that's going to change the state on the blockchain through the smart contracts. Do you have any questions on this part? Right. And we are gonna go later to the Celo tools. So here is a list of Celo tools that we are gonna be using these days. So to start, SDK. The SDK is the tool that we're gonna use maybe mostly in order to interact with the blockchain, with the Celo blockchain. And basically it wraps a set of smart contract from the core Celo protocol. It's like, how to say it? Let's say that we want to interact with Celo, right? So without the SDK, we will need to get the API, we will need to get Ether.js and know to which address that smart contract was published, and we can do that. We can drop it and we can interact, but that's a lot of time. Let's say that we have Celo Real, we have Celo Dollar, Celo Euros, and then we need to interact with other 4 smart contracts from the Celo protocol, right? So that's too much, right? So that's why the SDK. The SDK is just a wrap, and we're gonna say kit dot stable coins. We're gonna get a list of stable coins, and we were going to say, okay, we want from this stablecoin list, we want to send 10 Celo. The Celo CLI is for implementation that we want to run via command line. The Block Scout is the platform that we're going to use to see all the details of the transactions. So let's say that we sent 10 Celo, right? Or 10 Celo. And the person say us, I didn't receive it. Like, send that again. You can get the transaction hash, and you can say, explore Block Scout. Please, I want to look the details of this transaction, and you can send that to the person. If the person gives you another address, that's another history, right? But it's like how you can view the detail in a visual way on what happened with any transaction. Then we have alpha hours, where basically it's a testnet. So right now we are gonna mostly use alpha hour because we don't want to try with real money, right? Yeah, we are gonna use alpha hours for our tests, and also we have for the infrastructure side, Fornos, QuickNode, and DataHub. And what is that? Tomorrow or any other day that you're very curious about, know how we can deploy the smart contract, we are gonna basically change our configuration in Hardhat or Truffle, and we will need to point an RPC at some point. And what does that mean? It means through which kind of set of nodes we want to deploy this logic in order to be deployed in the blockchain and get one public key of that smart contract account, right? And those RPCs are provided through different services, like Forno, QuickNode, and Data. Then we have use contract kit, and what is that used for? Is like, let's say that you are aware, mostly React technology, right? So you want to use contract kit because that's a wrap of these Celo protocol smart contracts, but also you want to have hooks that are very easy to use in a React application, right? So it's a wrap of a wrap. So basically what we do at Celo is makes developers' life easier. Right? It's a wrap of hooks. Yeah, you're ready to go to, let's say you want to sign a transaction. So easy. right? And finally, we have in the Celo tools, the graph. And what are we gonna use the graph for? Let's say that you want to read a lot of information from one smart contract, right? You can do the traditional way, that is to go to SDK or the use contract kit and say, okay, I want to call this function that is viewable, and I'm going to get a set of information from that, right? But let's say that you have a list of, I don't know, NFTs, right? So basically from a UX perspective, you need to do a loop of calls, right? You need to, yeah, that's very expensive from the UX point of view, because you need to make a lot of loops. Basically with the graph, what you can do is like you deploy first your smart contract, you have your API, and then you can just create one GraphQL kind of implementation in order to read that information from the blockchain. And then what the graph does is store that into a Web2 database in order for you to read that information more quickly, right? And then with a GraphQL way, read that information from that smart contract. So depending on your use case, it could be easier or better for your UX, right? So yeah, we have seen Celo tools, and also we have Celo wallets. Celo wallets are all the wallets that are used in the ecosystem. We have the Celo wallet. We have that could be installed either in computer or in browser. We have the Celo terminal, which is just a command line library. We have the Celo extension wallet. That is a Chrome browser extension, and we have MetaMask for sure. And also we have Ledger and Valora, which is the one that we are going to install today. Yep, and we have just Celo Ethereum tools, because as I mentioned, we are EVM compatible. So basically we are gonna write our code in Solidity, and we can use either Truffle or Hardhat. And if we want to do something very quick and we don't want to deal with any UX side, just the smart contract side, we can use Remix. All right. So for more resources, we have this list. I'm done. Is there any questions regarding the tech stack?
You like it over the slide?
Sure. So yeah, so basically this part of the presentation was this middle ground between, a more technical that is going to be tomorrow and a more explanatory side. So yeah, thank you. Well, yeah, any questions? Yeah. Yes, tomorrow we are going to dissect transactions in Celo, and we're going to say, okay, this is an Ethereum transaction, this is a Celo transaction, and how it differ. Yeah, we're going to use different libraries, Ether.js or the SDKs, and we're going to send that to Celo. Yeah. I'm not sure.
I think it's tomorrow morning. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good talk.
Yeah. We have here the notes.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, I think I'm good on this part. All right. Thanks for sticking around. We're an hour in. I appreciate everybody. I'm back. I got 30 more minutes to talk about some stuff, but basically now it's just going to be connecting with Celo tools. I started by saying it's easy to get started. As you're seeing, it's hard to explain because there's a lot in between having a usable app and, did you want me on a microphone? And going ahead and developing it for yourself. So to me, it's like, if you're building for the hackathon, what's that quickest path to get started? And I wanted now to be a chance to just kind of explain that, get you set up with some of the tools, and make it so you take some of this theoretical idea and turn it into like a tangible, something you can walk away with. But basically, yeah, you learned a little bit of the basics. We wanted to install Valora. I don't know if anyone is familiar with other EVM stuff. You might already have MetaMask. We can connect everything to that. After that, you can go ahead and deploy dApps, customize them, and then extend them with all the different tools we have available. One slide I find important, if you did connect through the bit.ly.celo Miami, is these are the 3 main developer resources that I think are going to help you get started. You've got the documentation. We've got a developer community blog that walks through more like informative guides about how to get started with everything. Most of the links that I have through the rest of this are going to be linking to that community blog. I tried to lay it up super simple in each case so you can get started, but then again, here to help. And then this developer guide I made where it's really just this global set of links because there's stuff coming from everywhere. It's a decentralized ecosystem. There's documentation everywhere. There's code everywhere. I just try to have one central hub where it's not over explaining anything. It's just here's all the links and resources. If you want to learn about stablecoins, click that in the TOC, a whole set of links that take everything about stablecoins. But that said, as you'll find out, I like making complicated charts, but this is my way to visualize what's it going to look like when you're building, when you're getting a hold of these tools before we go ahead and download them. Basically over here, I don't really have a pointer. Does this work? Over there, that's what it's going to look like on your mobile phone. You really just need MetaMask, Valora, and then the dApp you end up building. So as you're building it, you can see it live. You're building, making sure it's working for everybody. And then it'll integrate with Valora. It'll integrate with MetaMask. No matter where you have your funds, you can make it so it works either way. Inside of Valora, it's also a dApp Explorer. So some of these dApps I explained, like Impact Market, Moolah Market, Mobius, Uniswap, NomSpace, the list kind of goes on. You can have your dApp integrate with any of them. And as soon as you're integrated with Valora, now you can have the funds going between all these different dApps in the way that you want. What else? On the other side, this is more like your desktop. So we want to build for mobile, but you can't build on mobile. So to me, the environment that I use, everyone has their own IDE ideas, but I like VS Code. I would download that. Solidity is what you're going to code in. Truffle and Hardhat to deploy your contracts. And I use React a lot, but again, you can use any front-end framework you want. Your browser, when you're building, I use a Chrome browser. You can go on Remix if you don't want to deal with setting up your local environment at all. And also have MetaMask, even though it's on your phone, you can sync it so it's on your browser too, and you can make transactions and it just makes it a little easier. What we described already was all this connects to the Celo platform, kind of like in this t-shirt. I hope it kind of helps, but you connect to the Celo platform, and using the different SDKs and Web3 libraries is how you're connecting all of this to the platform. So basically, you've got the Celo, you've got your computer, you've got your phone, and then you've got the world of dApps you can connect to. So the first one of those, and to me, it's most important, is Valora. It was one of the first apps that was built on Celo. It's the one we keep mentioning, Venmo for crypto. What we wanted to do here is, if anybody is interested, you can download it right now and get set up. It's about 5 minutes or less. And then there's just a QR code on it. I'd be happy to walk around. I'll give you all 10 CUSD, anybody who ends up installing it. And what that'll do for you is, well, it's $10, so that's cool. It also, you can then get MetaMask, practice sending transactions to it on the live net, see how it goes. It's a tenth of a cent per transaction, so you're not wasting money doing that. And then you can deploy to mainnet for really cheap too. So one thing about transactions is it's great that they're cheap for people who are using them, but people will also develop on test nets because they don't want to waste too much money. But in this case, deploying your smart contract on the mainnet is, again, that single cent to do. So you can go to testnet, work on that, and then you can go live on mainnet. So under there is a link where I know this doesn't necessarily tell you exactly how to get started, but that would be the end screen you have. But this link under here is one of the blogs I wrote, just 3 simple steps. It goes through absolutely everything to get you started. It's not too long of a post because it's pretty easy, but I'm not sure what a good time is. Maybe when we wrap up, we'll walk around anybody who has the QR code. I'd love to connect with you. From there, once you have a transaction and an account, this link at the bottom here takes you to the Block Explorer. Because what's cool about blockchains is every transaction is live for everyone to see through a Block Explorer like this. So you'll be able to look up your account, see the funds you have, check out the transaction, see the amount it was worth, and sort of monitor your account from there. I like seeing it there visually first because it's kind of the basis of what you'll do later, where eventually you'll want to interact through the CLI and see, okay, the same stuff that's on the Block Explorer, can I access it through my terminal? Later, can I open up VS Code and access it through JavaScript? But that's all like kind of deeper and deeper layers into the code, where this is just immediately and simply, you can just check out what's going on and get a good feel for what you want to look at later and when you're actually working in the code. The next thing you can do, I don't know how many people do have MetaMask. Actually, I should just ask. Does anybody here have MetaMask? All right, perfect. So you know what I was talking about. So yeah, that's something here. You don't need to download it since you already have it. I have another blog link there, 3 simple steps to connect your MetaMask wallet to Celo. And the idea is you'll see your Celo assets just right next to and alongside your Ethereum assets. You can see any NFTs you have on Celo, and it's all available just like you know from before. From there, you can, here it says it's connected to the test net. You can also connect it to the main net. In that blog, basically, it's just a couple things you need to configure in the settings. It's maybe about 5 minutes or less to do it. And when you do connect it to the test net, you can go ahead to our faucet and send some money in there. So again, when you're developing, you can go ahead and launch on Alpha Horus testnet. I guess something we didn't know, it's called Alpha Horus. That's a dessert. There's a lot of dessert related things at Celo. For example, we've had 2 hard forks. One was called donut, one was espresso. So anything that's kind of weird sounding, it's either a dessert or this language called Esperanto. It was a made up language by some linguists that were trying to come up with like a universal language. And you'll see that elsewhere. For example, Celo means purpose in Esperanto. I can't think of anything else. Oh, Plumo is a light client that we had mentioned, and it means feather in Esperanto. So you'll see that throughout some of our language too. The next step, one thing that happens is you can have your Valora in your account, and then you can have MetaMask in your account, but that doesn't necessarily mean your Valora account is showing in your MetaMask wallet. They're 2 separate accounts. But what you can do, and we kind of talked, wouldn't recommend doing it here. It does involve exposing your private key. You won't have Valora funds at first, so it doesn't matter too much, but it's still good to keep it safe. But it's a quick process. You import your private key into MetaMask, and now not only do you see Celo in your MetaMask account, but it's actually exactly what's in your Valora account and completely linked because they're the same account now. So again, a blog, actually this is documentation, but on how to get that done. Getting test funds, mentioned that. This is all going to be much more useful. Yeah, if you have gone to the presentation, I can go back to the beginning later so you can get the QR codes. But again, these links are teaching you how to get set up with that. And at that point, you've got Celo, you've got all the wallets that you need to get started. You essentially just need to go ahead and code. And where I would start with that is have MetaMask in your browser and go to Remix. It's a popular Ethereum tool. And at this point now, you can just use maybe their default contract if you're not too familiar, or make a more complicated contract if you want to do that. And then just deploy it. You can choose Celo over in the, there's a panel on the left. It'll be connected, and then you can just operate from there without needing to set up your local environment. If you do want to set up your local environment, there's some stuff, depending on how familiar you are with coding, what you have set up that you might need to go through. For example, Xcode needs to be on your computer. Node, recommend Node version manager because you'll need Node version 12 specifically for Celo. So just having a general idea of how to go between your different Node versions and how to get that on your computer. But this link will set you up on Mac or Windows. Aside from that, blog, I wrote it. I thought it sounded maybe clickbaity, but it's the ultimate guide to deploy dApps with Truffle. Step-by-step guide, every single thing from front to back. If you prefer Trello, how you're going to get started. The same thing with Hardhat. I kind of like both. I don't know which I pick. I guess it's just whatever you like best. But again, another ultimate guide so you can deploy with Hardhat. And then last, we have this tool built by someone else on our team where there is still a good amount of configuration for getting set up. Again, the local environment. Do you want Truffle? Do you want this? But we built this thing called dApp Starter where you essentially clone the repo, get it on your local device, hit, I guess, yarn dev, and now you've got a dApp available on your local computer. So a simple storage contract, a creator contract, and it's actually expanded since now to show different transaction types. And we're growing it over time just to make it as like the easy to get started tool with Celo. You might be familiar with on Ethereum, there is, what's the Ethereum tool? Scaffold ETH. If you've ever used it for like quick start tutorials and getting you started. That's one if you're working on Ethereum, might be easier for you is Scaffold ETH. But we have dApp Starter. So coming back to this, hopefully some of these are a little more familiar now, but what we want to get started doing, get your Valora, get your MetaMask, one more time. build your dApp, connect to the dApps, get your local environment, SDKs, and connect to Celo. And that's like a one-stop snapshot of everything you're going to be looking at, because I know it can get all disparate and confusing, like what's where and what exactly am I even looking for. So that's my best take on exactly what can guide you towards what to install and when and why. So that said, I guess I did just run through saying you can install like 10,000 different things on your computer. Maybe a little bit while I'm around, we'd be happy to mentor you, show you what the next step would be based on what you want to do. Or we can just go ahead, see if anybody's downloaded Flora, and then we can give out all the money, because that sounds fun too. And this is all prepped for tomorrow. If anybody does want to come back, we're going to get a little more into the code, at a little deeper level, like actually live coding, a little deeper into the idea of what it means to actually be building in refi stablecoins, mobile, and community commerce, to like give better ideas, and that thinking like a founder idea, where if we might just keep coding if people prefer that, but I do think it's fun to figure out what's your pitch, how you're going to polish it, how you're going to make your demo video and get that out. But yeah, a question?
When you say coding, is that like for a project or just like tests?
Some of it would be testing. I know Nestor might be able to speak better to it, but just in a general idea, just wanted to show that if you wanted to make a Celo transaction using one of these stable coins, more than just saying it's possible, actually show the code where we have our SDK called Contract Kit, where you can make a transaction, view it on a from your terminal or from whatever application you're making. Aside from that, there's Ethereum libraries that work for this. So Web3 and Ethers is also possible if you're more familiar with that and you don't need to use Contract Kit. It's just other ways to make transactions. But I didn't mean to probably talked over your answer.
Yeah, basically it's like we were gonna dissect how Ethereum self-transaction for Ethereum, and then we are gonna use different methods.
Okay, can somebody do it with their phone or just bring like the laptop?
No. We can help you set up.
Cool. Oh, question?
Yeah, it's more like curiosity. So
Sure.
So I'm a Muggle, as in I have no knowledge of developing at all.
Sure.
But I was curious, do you have any projects or have you heard of anyone using local
Local to Celo? I'm not sure I heard. Did you hear Nestor?
local for local?
Oh, no code for Celo. I think we're, what was that? No, I don't know that we do. There's a couple maybe coming. There's not any no code you can find on Ethereum. You could probably repurpose for something on Celo, but as of like what's happening in the next week, it might be worth, I've seen at certain hackathons, like it said in the beginning, welcome builders, founders, developers, like it's an idea is an idea, and whether you can build it out in 3 days through code or through like explaining it well in a presentation or a video, or like a founder approach, like it's also completely fine. I've seen people win hackathons based off of their pitch deck. Code demos and everything is great, but if it's mission aligned, it's really well thought out, it's well expressed, and you can see like a future for it, it does help to have some idea of what the next steps are. That's one approach. Alternatively, if there's any devs interested in your idea, hopefully we get a chance to chat and share information with each other that can help support it. And I'll keep it in mind that nothing's coming to mind for like a no code solution. Maybe repurposing existing apps and making a couple tweaks where you don't have to really go completely from scratch. Could be one idea. And I'll look out, yeah, I've used a bunch of Ethereum no code, but unfortunately nothing that's on Celo yet.
You made it primarily Solidity, right?
Yeah.
So symbol change should work. Biological symbol change.
Okay. Simba chain. Yeah, I hadn't heard of that.
The project came out of the stuff with them.
Okay.
No code, no code.
Okay. Cool. Great. Thanks.
Simple. Maybe that's for sure.
Does anybody have any questions about whatever we're doing? I know I kind of left with like a million links there. If anybody's installing Valora, obviously we keep repeating it. You want to, you'll try, maybe we can do a live demo. I'll just send you some money now. And then
You got the QR code back.
Sure. Can you pass my phone?
We just go to add-ons to get the.
Yeah, if you have Allure installed, you would just, there's a button from the home screen on the bottom right that opens the QR code.
Oh, that's.
And then I could just go ahead and scan it and send you money.
Yeah, that's kind of.
Cool.
Way, right? So that'll lose that.
All right, so for anyone who's trying, she's just showing what it'll look like. This screen, there's a QR code button on the bottom right, once you have Allure. And then all I do is instead of pressing my code, I hit scan on my end. I'll scan the QR code, thing comes up on my end. I'll type in 10 USD. You get to review it. You can add a description, a comment, like what it's for or anything. And then go ahead and send it. It's asking for my Face ID. And at this point, I've sent the transaction. And then just let us know when you get it. I guess that'll prove maybe how fast or slow it actually is.
How many can transact?
On the blockchain, every 5 seconds, a transaction should be validated. So within 5 to 10 seconds, I would hope you end up getting it.
Yeah.
So, you just got it now?
It was faster than what I said.
Cool.
That was what I was.
Yeah, while we're talking, she got her money and
Thank you so
cool.
much.
Glad it worked. And that's how easy it is. And then all I sent, you probably got about $10 because it's no big gas fees, no worries for
So
that.
it's CUSD.
Yeah, CUSD is what I sent you. You can, within the app, transfer it to Celo, the governance token, if you do want. And that's what it'll be where it's going up and down in value.
Yeah.
But in this case, it's $10, it's $10.
So within the app, so if I just go to.
Sure. All right, cool. Yeah, we'll just split up and go once that happens.
So if I want to, swap back right now.
Yeah.
So,
Just to
I do have on that block. Oh, just can't.
Oh, we need to swap it. I don't have.
Oh, no.
That's great.
I think I just saw it. It's fine.
It is.
Sorry, let's check it out.
so that's your
All right, my end is set. And hopefully in a couple seconds you get it. Through Laura, once you install, send them the density USD. So $10 just give you a chance to mess with it, so you can connect it to MetaMask. Anybody else over here?
So there's no things if you're swapping it out.
Yeah, it would be.
It's like, it's like zero.
Yeah, it's actually zero.
Oh, no, yeah.
Yeah, you might get like a penny or less per transaction that you make. But great for the computer to show you.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's part of the newsletter stuff. You can use our wait for it.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks for the bit of yeah, that's what transactions are faster than those. So that's good.
Oh my God. No, I didn't stop and talk stuff. Okay.
Well, it should be coming through. I don't know if you got it yet, but it's on its way. You got it? Nice. So yeah, thanks. That's what you can check it out on that Block Explorer. One check it out. It's hard sometimes to go like so much code. I don't know where you're at. Yeah, you can check it out on Block Explorer. Send it to MetaMask and then start coding on the money. Where's the? Do you want to? Yeah, I said it would be, all you need is your phone number. Take your phone number. No, I don't have
For you like a dope presentation, I'm really good at that. That's true.
So loaded.
I like the presentation, by the way. I don't know a lot about it,
verifying from your.
That makes sense. Thank you.
All right, and then a couple seconds on your end.
Wow, it's so fast. Thank you.
All right, cool. Sorry, I have a, yeah, $10 to put the Eagles Sparrow goes through. And now it's on its way. You should have it. You have it already? Yeah, so any transactions that are happening ever on the network are not that quick. I'm sorry. I'll be over.
Because my is changing.
Okay, so I'm great to show that's one of the projects you want to know.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I
Oh, okay. Congress has.
I know, exactly, like, and, but I never heard of the.
Okay, yeah, it was one of the newer ones.
So the book.
It was 3 months now. It's been around. Yeah. I'm not.
No, she said Wazé. I'm not Brazilian.
You're asking me if you have and like import. Yes.
Oh, I thought, sorry, you were helping everybody, so I thought you had a, you had done it already.
We created. First,
Yeah, it's like, it's just, I have, the side menu floor. Yes. Yeah, buy and sell these Sure, oh, thank you. Sure, where you're going. Okay.
I know, no. I think
We're just gonna show you the plan, just,
Bom dia.
Bom dia. Bom dia. Demais. Demais. I can't pronounce it. I did.
Hey.
Yes, so
And one thing just to show everybody quick that I didn't show you, the other side, this is that store, and where I was saying that, the water connects all the way to that. So if you click on that, any money, any of that, so you just. Just everybody, and there, money in the, whatever. You can buy like